"I have seen things that I was not supposed to see." These words, spoken by one Nazi leader's wife, hint at the dark secrets these women carried. In this video, we'll explore the complex lives of 5 women who were more than bystanders to history's darkest chapter. Gerda Bormann. Gerda Bormann, the wife of Martin Bormann and mother of 10 children, embodied the Nazi ideal of womanhood. Born into a family soaked in Nazi ideology, Gerda's upbringing prepared her for a life dedicated to the party's principles. At just 19 years old, she married Martin Bormann, who would become Hitler's private secretary and one of the most powerful figures in the Third Reich. As Martin's influence grew, Gerda found herself living in the shadow of Hitler's inner circle. Her life became a testament to Nazi values, particularly her role as a mother. The regime celebrated women who bore multiple children, and Gerda was awarded the Gold Cross of Honor of the German Mother for having 8 or more children. This award reflected the Nazis' population policies, which aimed to increase the Aryan population. Gerda's dedication to Nazi ideology was evident in every aspect of her life. She often wore traditional German attire, projecting the image of the ideal Aryan woman. Her letters to Martin revealed her unwavering support for his work and the Nazi cause. In one letter she wrote, "I cannot imagine how the Führer would manage without you," demonstrating her belief in the importance of her husband's role. Despite Martin's numerous affairs, Gerda remained a loyal and supportive wife. She accepted his infidelities as part of his important work for the regime, prioritizing her role as a mother and keeper of the household. Her life was a balancing act between managing a large family and maintaining the image of the perfect Nazi wife. After World War II, Gerda's life took a dramatic turn. With her husband missing and presumed dead, she faced the collapse of everything she had believed in. The loss of her social status and the implications of her husband's actions during the war weighed heavily on her. Gerda attempted to rebuild her life, but the challenges proved overwhelming. She relocated with 8 of her children to the village of Wolkenstein, located 20 kilometers northeast of Bolzano, Italy. There, she was found and interrogated for several days. Tragically, Gerda's post-war experiences were short-lived. She died of uterine cancer in an Italian prison in 1946, just a year after the war's end. Henrietta von Schirach. Henrietta von Schirach, daughter of Hitler's personal photographer Heinrich Hoffmann, married Baldur von Schirach, who became the Reich youth leader and later Gauleiter of Vienna. As part of the Nazi inner circle, Henrietta attended social gatherings with Hitler and other high-ranking officials. However, her perspective changed dramatically during a visit to Amsterdam in 1943. Witnessing the deportation of the Dutch Jews, Henrietta was deeply disturbed by the brutality she observed. In a rare act of defiance, she confronted Hitler directly about the treatment of the Jews. The consequences of Henrietta's actions were immediate and severe. Hitler, enraged by her challenge, banned her from his presence and from Berlin. This effectively ended her husband's political career as the couple was exiled to Vienna. The once influential family found themselves isolated within the Nazi hierarchy. After the war, Henrietta's husband was tried and convicted at the Nuremberg trials. Henrietta felt relieved when he avoided a death sentence, instead receiving a 20-year imprisonment at Spandau prison. On July 20, 1949, while her husband was incarcerated, Henrietta filed for divorce due to her romantic involvement with Alfred Jacob, the former husband of German film director Leni Riefenstahl. The divorce was finalized in October 1950. After the war, Henrietta attempted to distance herself from Nazi ideology. She wrote several books about her experiences, including The Price of Glory and Women of the Third Reich, in which she portrayed herself as a naive bystander who eventually found the courage to speak out. Henrietta's character remains complex and controversial. While her confrontation with Hitler demonstrated a moral responsibility, critics argue that it came too late and question the extent of her earlier complicity. Her post-war efforts to explain her experiences have been met with skepticism by some historians, who view them as an attempt at self-exoneration. Henrietta von Schirach died in 1992. Bridget Frank. The lavish halls of Wawel Castle in Krakow, once home to Polish royalty, became the domain of Bridget Frank during World War II. As the wife of Hans Frank, the Nazi governor-general of occupied Poland, Bridget embraced her new role with ruthless ambition. Bridget's rise to power began with her marriage to Hans Frank, a prominent lawyer who quickly ascended through the Nazi party ranks. When Hitler appointed Hans as governor-general in 1939, Bridget seized the opportunity to elevate her status and indulge in a lavish lifestyle at the expense of the occupied Polish population. The Franks moved into Wawel Castle, a symbol of Polish national identity. Bridget redecorated the historic rooms with looted artwork and furniture, earning herself the nickname Queen of Poland among the Nazi elite. She allegedly involved herself in the systematic theft of Jewish property, acquiring valuable artworks, jewelry, and other treasures. These actions not only satisfied her greed, but also contributed to the Nazi regime's efforts to erase Jewish culture from occupied territories. Throughout the war, Bridget's influence on her husband's career was significant. She encouraged Hans to maintain a hardline approach in governing Poland, pushing for policies that would put them in favor with Hitler and other top Nazi officials. Her ambition and desire for power helped drive Hans to commit increasingly severe acts against the Polish people. After the war, as the Nazi atrocities came to light, Bridget Frank denied any knowledge of mass killings in concentration camps, despite overwhelming evidence of her husband's involvement. When Hans Frank stood trial at Nuremberg for war crimes and crimes against humanity, Bridget worked tirelessly to defend him, attempting to portray him as a misunderstood figure under the influence of Hitler. Her efforts proved futile, and Hans Frank was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. The execution of her husband in 1946 marked a turning point in Bridget's life. Stripped of power and luxury, she was forced to confront the consequences of her actions during the war. In the years that followed, Bridget struggled to reconcile her past with her new reality. She lived in poverty in Munich until her death in March 1959. Hedwig Höss. Hedwig Höss, wife of Rudolf Höss, the commandant of Auschwitz concentration camp, lived in a villa adjacent to the camp. While unthinkable horrors were happening just meters away, the family carried on with a normal-looking life. Hedwig took care of their 5 children and managed the home, while her husband was in charge of the camp. Their everyday life stood in stark contrast to the suffering beyond their fence. Despite her post-war claims of ignorance, evidence suggests Hedwig was aware of the camp's true nature. The smell of burning bodies and sounds of suffering were difficult to ignore. Some accounts indicate she even used prison labor for household chores, directly benefiting from the camp's operations. This proximity to and involvement with the camp's activities undermines her assertions of ignorance. When the Soviet forces closed in on the camp, Hedwig aided her husband's escape. Rudolf Höss disguised himself as a sailor and went into hiding. During interrogations, Hedwig maintained her innocence, insisting she knew nothing of the atrocities. However, her efforts to protect her husband were ultimately futile. After Rudolf Höss's capture, trial, and execution in 1947, Hedwig faced the challenge of rebuilding her life in post-war Germany. She struggled to distance herself from her husband's crimes while simultaneously defending his memory to their children. After her husband's execution, Hedwig Höss assumed a new identity to seek anonymity in post-war Germany. She was briefly questioned but faced no substantial legal repercussions. Her later life was marked by efforts to distance herself from her family name. Hedwig Höss passed away in 1989, spending decades in the shadow of her husband's notorious legacy. Annelies von Ribbentrop. Annelies von Ribbentrop's life transformed dramatically from hosting lavish parties for foreign diplomats to struggling in a post-war Germany. As the wife of Nazi Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop, she played a crucial role in her husband's political rise. Annelies was a very controlling woman and made all the political decisions. It was she who urged her husband to join the National Socialist Party. Her charm and social connections proved invaluable in diplomatic circles, creating an atmosphere for political negotiations and alliances. During the height of the Nazi regime, Annelies lived a life of luxury and influence. She traveled with her husband on diplomatic missions and attended international conferences. Her presence often softened his harsh personality, making her a key figure in Nazi Germany's foreign policies. As the war progressed, Annelies remained loyal to the Nazi regime, maintaining her social engagements and working to boost the morale among other high-ranking officials' wives. However, the arrest of her husband in 1945 by the Allied forces marked a turning point in her life, stripping her of status and leaving her facing an uncertain future. Despite overwhelming evidence against her husband, Annelies worked tirelessly to defend him during the Nuremberg trials. Her efforts proved futile, and Joachim von Ribbentrop was executed in 1946. Even after the fall of the regime, Annelies held onto its ideology. She stayed connected with former supporters and tried to keep those beliefs alive in small, secretive groups. While many other Nazi wives distanced themselves from their past, Annelies refused to do so. Her significant wealth was seized but was later returned under certain conditions. In her later years, she became interested in managing her family business and authored several books and articles defending both her husband's and her own actions. She invested considerable money and effort into legal proceedings in Berlin, Munich, London, and Paris to address what she perceived as slander against her husband and to reclaim her estate in Berlin. She passed away at the age of 77 in 1973. The experiences of these women reveal complex stories of guilt, denial, and complicity. Their stories serve as a reminder of the human capacity for both complicity in evil and the struggle for redemption. They raise questions about how societies reconcile with dark chapters in their history and the role of individual responsibility in the face of systemic atrocity. These accounts contribute to our understanding of the complex legacy of the Nazi era and its effects on subsequent generations, offering a nuanced perspective on a challenging period in history. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. We hope you found this video informative. If you enjoyed learning about today's topic, make sure to check out our other World War II videos. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more World War II content. And we'll see you in the next one.